Well folks, welcome back to the workshop. Today I've got a Bosch hammer on for repair, and I'm going to call this one a risky repair. I've actually already ran this one and it doesn't sound good. Had it done last week, but I was trying to get rid of as many tools as possible last week, so I was trying to get all the simple and quick fixes. Pulled this one in, ran it, heard the noise of it, and then put it back out in the shelves for another time. We're going to have to tackle it here now today. By the sounds of it, there's a risk it could be gears up in here, potentially an armature. If that's the problem, I don't think this is going to be worth fixing. But we're going to have to start stripping it down to find out exactly. But one thing's for sure, she doesn't sound nice. So this one is a GSH 5 CE, just a chipping hammer, no boring, just a rotor, just hammer only, no rotary. Handy for the likes of chisel and that. Popular hammer, not that bad a price, but they do have a tendency to wear out the gears in the armature if they're getting prolonged use and the grease gets thrown off. But we'll see what she's like here now. There's something gone anyway. There's any hammer out of it. Not a kick out of her, but there's something kicking inside of here. So we're going to have to get in and just find out. There's a screw missing here as well. This is where we'll find out if it's worth it. I'm going to take this cover off. See what she's done. Yeesh. That's the problem with the grease. Oh, actually, not too bad. It's not as bad as I thought. Well, mightn't be as bad as I thought. It's actually broken the con rod. So I think that whole piston's in assembly. It's broken that. That's why she's not hammering. But also, the needle bearings for that crank clearly need a bit of attention. They may be gone too. Right. It's worth it so far, but it's going to depend if that crank needs to be replaced as well. There's only the piston and a few wee bits. We might get away with a few parts and a service. Don't know if there's gear damage. It's going to go into a lot more money. What's the actual year off this machine? Don't even know. Badge is gone. Nothing left on her. Well, she's not under warranty anyway. We need a badge and a serial number to do a warranty. By the looks of it, this thing ain't warranty anyway. This thing's definitely seen work anyway. Well, there's the crank. Sure, I don't have to wait to get out. Seeing as the piston's already broken or the con rod, there's nothing to hold it on. Right, that crank is also gone. The steel finish is actually worn away here now. So the needles haven't actually failed. It's the shaft of the crank that's failed, the actual surface finish, the hardness finish, which is worn one side. So that's disappointing. We might be able to fix this, but replacing the crank only can sometimes leave it very noisy because it's meshing this gear. We'll take the armature out and see what that looks like. It'll work and it'll run, but it can just sound noisy. It's an expensive fix, replacing all these bits and doing a service on it, just for it to be very noisy at the end because these gears won't be matching. This armature will have to stay, and then a new crank put on, which will be a mismatched gear. So it could sound a wee bit geary. We're not going to know until we actually do it. Take your whole chuck apart, your tool holder, take all the butts out. At the bottom then, you should have a big C-clip. Pull that off. That's what's holding on your hammer pipe. So before we go any further, we just take the motor apart. Because if that's badly worn as well, this could still make it not worth fixing. That's actually not too bad. Brushes are fairly well worn though. That's the wrong brush for this machine. This has been modified. Doesn't seem right anyway. It still work, but just not exactly right. We'll just take these off. So we can take off the handle. I would safely say this has been serviced somewhere else before, because normally a little badge inside of here, even no matter how banged up the machine is, normally that badge is always still there, but it's not here. Normally it comes out when somebody has it dismantled and takes the badge away to look up part numbers or something and forget to put it back in again. I know that because I've done it myself. Leads in that still look okay. Leave that to one side. And we'll get onto the motor and the hammer section. Well, they're tight. Sometimes best to start them with an Allen key first, or torque key, just to get them opened. Or sometimes put them with Loctite. Four big screws holds the motor onto the hammer section, and then the armature, then the bearing on top is actually pressed into here, so the two are kind of stuck together. To get them off, get yourself a mallet, or else your dead blow hammer, something soft, not a metal face because this is only aluminium. Hold it up, give it a wee tap. Should drop off. Armature's not looking too bad. There is wear on it, but it's not worn through, and it's not sharp. We might get away with this. Now to loosen off this nut, simply clamp the teeth of the armature, not the shaft here, the actual teeth, and the vise with the wee jaw protectors. That'll hold the armature so you can slacken off this nut. Actually, he's done more work than I thought. And the fan needs addressing as well. If that kept going, that fan's going to break off, come loose and start burning away, or wearing away the actual shoulder that it sits on. So we got to that early. So we'll take it off and we'll glue that back into place, because changing the fan's going to not do nothing now, because this will be worn. Glue is the only way. So the armature, it's worn but not worn out. It's just worn on a little bit. You can see it does shape on here. I think we will get away with it. And that's the damaged bit. It's actually bone dry, so that wouldn't have been hammering very well anyway. Yeah, and they're totally dry, no grease at all. So this thing's had problems for a while. The main problem is that grease. Too thick for this machine. There's the wee bits in there, but it's actually the parts, the conrod. At least I hope it is. It's the frame. Yeah, that's just the nylon conrod. So the grease down on here, that is going to be coming from the oil seal. So when that's in, the bearing's going to stop the grease from really coming out. Whenever that fails completely, it'll all get down onto the gearbox or onto the motor section. So that oil seal will have to be changed. That's not on the service kit, so you'll have to buy that separately. Right, we're going to go ahead of this, put a service kit onto it, get a new oil seal, we'll change the bearings, glue this fan back on, get 2 new needle bearings for this, and a new crank, hopefully. Actual steel insert on here isn't actually damaged, and with the 2 new bearings and crank, it should be tight enough then. Right, over to the parts washer now, get it cleaned out. Now, I don't like this grease, but the only good thing about it is it's a lot easier to clean out. The oil is very sticky, it leaves a residue. This here washes out easily. Strap this down the rest of the way. Front oil seals should be okay. We'll still have to dismantle the striker bolt inside. So that'll be in the service kit, so we want to replace them parts anyway, regardless if they're worn or not. About these pins. Take them out. And we can get the striker bolt out. Right, one Bosch hammer, all cleaned out. 2 new bearings, a new piston, service kit, needle bearings, oil seal, a new holding down appliance, and a new crank. Hopefully that's all the bits we're going to need for this thing. Now to see if we can get her back together again. First off, need to get this fan refixed on or reattached. See if we can glue it on and let it set as we're putting the rest of it together here. Now we're going to change this bearing anyway, so we're going to take it off. Once the bearing's off, the fan will come off anyway. But take note of exactly where that fan sits, because if it's too much play and you put it on too tight, it's going to be rubbing on the air deflector and rub, melt in and get jammed. So make sure this goes on right. Take note of where it is. You could also replace this, but the play is going to be on this here plastic part of the shaft, and that's what wears away. So placing it's not going to cure it. You're going to have to glue it. Let's see if we can get this bearing off here first. So that's it off. You can see we're getting to it just in time. Any more and it might not be able to be saved. Now the best way to put these back on is with epoxy resin, a 2-part epoxy or an araldite, but that takes a lot longer to set. But so instead I'm just going to use a super glue to actually get this on right away. Or a super glue and a boulder. I'll build this up a little bit first, so there's something to go on to. That'll tighten it up. Don't want it too tight, but we need it tighter. Right, that should do. Get a good gob on here. There's little slots and holes in it. That'll get all the way in. Ah, lovely. Drop it on my finger now. Probably a bit too much, but better too much than too little. Make sure we're still right. And when she's still wet, get a bit more of this building powder out in here to fill the gap. Get her all the way up to the brim. And then cap it off. That'll suck down in. Hold that fan on permanently. Normally I'd use the activator on this, but I'm just going to let that soak down in all the way. because I'm not using it just yet anyway. Let it sit there now, that'll get out and set it solid. Hopefully it's not leaking too much out this side. Just clear the shaft where that bearing's going on. And I'll actually just stick the bearing on now. I'll glue it everywhere now. Just press this on and let it sit. Right, let that sit. It'll be fully cured by the time we're ready to use it. Right, next up, I'll just get the oil seal changed. And this is still the older style of hammer. Some of the newer ones now have actually done away with this little tripod insert in the middle. There's actually no reason for this, it's not actually supporting anything. A lot of time you get them in with them broken off anyway, and somebody using too big a punch to remove that. A bit of heat just to help this go on. Just stick a bit of grease on there before it gets too hot too. That'll also help it slide on. It's aluminium, so the actual heat gets dissipated extremely quickly. So you need to take the blowtorch off. You can nearly touch it, it's not going to burn you. It's hot, but it's not scalding. And just make sure your clip is back in. Now, let's get the needle bearings out. Get them ready to go. Flip piston as well. It comes with grease already in them. And we'll get the service kit out. Actually, let's see what this crank's like. I think this comes just as a crank only, there's nothing else with it. Some cracker, there's needle bearings with it now. Crank on its own. So it's amazing how it's actually able to wear through that there. As it happens, your needle bearing fails, it starts to wear through. Because these are so hard, they're glazed over, the actual hardened piece can actually come off. That's what you call it, just surface hardened. So the rest is mild, it's only the outside of it that's actually hardened. It's heated, hot, and then quenched to get the hard finish. And eventually that can start to peel off or break off like this if a bearing fails. Replace the bearings, you're going to do nothing, it's still going to have too much play. You have to replace the crank itself. So get that out, get rid of the old one. Now which way am I going to do this? I'll just get everything else ready before start reassembling to give that glue time to set. Brushes, full service kit. Top seal for there. We don't need that O-ring now because there's a new one on here. But we need this one for the hammer. also just do the striker bolt. Always make sure this is clean, because this is what's stopping dirt coming onto the hammer. That's not just grease there, that's grit. You need to make sure this area is clean. See what I mean? So that's ready. Now we can new tool retainers or stops. Let's get rid of the old ones. And then as well, the old O-ring blew out of this when I was cleaning it out. The service kit has a new one. And like I said in other videos, for a quick repair you can just get away with a few O-rings and a set of brushes in these. You only need to change the whole service kit if you're needing a set of brushes and this here. This oil seal and the brushes probably cost as much as the whole service kit. So you get the two O-rings as well, that's going to get you up and running. But if you had to replace them as well, you may as well just go for the full service kit. The rest of the bits in it don't cost you anything. So that is her ready to start rebuilding. I'm going to rebuild this area first before putting the motor back together again, I think. So we'll leave this ready. Just get a wee bit of grease on that, just to help keep it and to help seal it. And you're holding down appliance, just goes on there too. Just get these in out of the way. A bit of heavy grease down in there too. It's just better for it. I get the new crank in. Right, just take that piston on as well, since we're at it. That ready to go. There's a hammer only, no boring, no rotary mode, so it's nice and simple to rebuild. Set that to one side and we'll tackle this. Get the grease all the way to the bottom. Get your hammer bolt, this rubber damper, and the steel ring. This boyo here. I'll get this reinstalled. This makes this job a lot handier. The older ones had a spring clipping all down inside the tool holder. A bit more tricky to get in and out. This is a lot easier. One assembly and drop it on. this assembly now holds on this here striker bolt instead of the old setup with the spring inside. This is also in the service kit, so just get rid of that. See, some of the bits in the service kit, they're not necessary. I mean, a clip like that there, you'd only ever change if it broke. It's not going to wear out on its own. But it's in the service kit, so you may as well stick it in. That's the old rubber bush too. Get rid of that. Drop in these pins. The pins do wear out. You can see from the head of them. These can wear and become slack. But they're not in the service kit. So things that you could use are left out. And the things that you don't need, for some reason, are put on. Must be just to do with price. It'll look better. Look like you're getting more than you actually are. So that holds in your striker bolt down in there. And gives you your spring action. That's in there. Bit more grease. Get some grease on here too. It's going to get coated anyway as it's running. Just want to make sure there's plenty of grease and everything else until it actually gets up and running. You wouldn't want it to start moving around, moving these components inside when they're dry. Finish off here. You want to get your actual hammer in. Again, get a wee bit of grease just on that edge there, so it acts like a wee reservoir for it. Less likely to dry up. Push that on. Now your oil seal. Not replacing these seals because they're not that badly worn. You know they need to be replaced because it'll be leaking grease out the front. This isn't leaking any grease, so we'll just stick with the old ones. If it was leaking, even after servicing it, it's not that big a deal. It's easy to actually pull this out, or pull a hammer pipe out a little bit and replace these seals without dismantling the whole thing again. But they're also not that expensive, so if you're in any doubt, just replace them. But I know this one should be alright. So the seals are on, plastic washer, rubber bump, and there's a big washer for the top. Alright. Not even been removed. What am I looking for it for? Still on here. So that's that side. And this metal sleeve goes on here. So the spring's not acted on this here plastic ring. And your spring then, I think that's just about it. Can't do the tool holder until all this is together, so we'll just get her on here now. Again, just make sure this is greased. Shove that in. Tight squeeze, you can barely get your fingers in there. You have to get your top of your fingers to actually push that down the full way so you can get your C-clip on. If you don't get it down the full way, you can just tap it down. There we go. Make sure that snaps into place. And that's the hammer. Ready to go. Actually, I'm just going to finish this while I'm at it. Just get the whole hammer section ready. I'm going to do the tool holder last. That on. I'll get the sleeve on, get some grease in this first just. Tap that down. Your spring, indexing disc. Make sure these two parts are actually still intact. Make sure they're not broken off. Your new stops. Again, they very rarely wear out. Tool holder probably wear out before them, but if they are starting to wear, it's better to replace them because it'll actually help stop the tool holder wearing out. As on the actual keyways down inside, make sure they don't wear away. And get on your clip to hold this down. Click that on. Put on your sleeve and your new rubber cap. That's the whole hammer section ready. Now to get the motor back together. Right, I'll put this on now actually. No, I can't do that because I need to get grease on. I can't put the grease on unless the motor's on, otherwise it's just going to pour out the bottom of it. So leave that till we get the motor back together. So we'll do that next. First thing, before you stick your motor on, let's get this little plastic insert on. This is what holds on your handle at the back. This is where the two screws go into. You just screw onto this plastic instead of onto the actual metal body. So if you don't put this on, you'll not get your handle on. You have to disassemble the motor again to get this part in. So make sure that's in place. That on. And your plastic insert is just a cover. And next we'll get this motor section back together. Get rid of the old bearing. Clean up the little insert, this little rubber ring. New bearing. Stick her in and put on the nut. We'll clamp that in the vise, tighten up the nut. Now we can just marry these two up. Now this is not going to be quiet whenever we get it to run. It's not going to sound smooth because this is still a brand new gear with new teeth meshing into an old armature with worn teeth. Might look good, but there's still going to be a little bit of wear and they're not going to match exactly. So they're still going to be a bit geary and a bit noisy when it starts up, but you can't really do anything about that. Wouldn't be worth replacing the armature just for a wee bit of noise. It'll eventually wear on anyway and quieten down. So before we put this on, we touch the Loctite. All these screws, just to stop them from rattling out. Just get them started first to make sure they don't cross thread. Push down, go in reverse, give you a click, and that's it onto the original thread. Because these are self-tapping screws. If you miss the thread, they'll start a new thread, cut a new thread, cross thread it, and just wear out the aluminium. plate then, bearing down on the bearing. You have to have this on before you run it, because this armature is actually sitting up and rubbing on the air deflector. This here actually pushes the bearing down and seats the armature right. If you run it without this for a few seconds, the fan will melt into the air deflector. Then once you stop, it'll solidify and stick together. Nice set of fresh brushes to keep it running. I'm hoping this thing doesn't start sparking the second I start it. Oh, and the wrong holder there, look. That's for the other lead. Brush goes into this one. Because this armature is still worn, there's still a chance it could spark the second I start it. It didn't spark when I was initially taken in, but it was well worn then. Once you put a service kit onto it, everything's a lot tighter inside, so more resistance, more load to actually cause it to spark if there's a problem. It'll only show up after you rebuild the bloody thing. You could find that you've just completely wasted your time. And it does happen. The other thing is the gear, because it is worn, it's not going to be a perfect match. That could also cause it to spark, but we'll just have to judge it whenever we actually get it up and running, what it's sounding like. Now, I'll just get this on now or later. Now I'll put the top cover on now. Now this particular hammer, Bosch, takes around 80 ml of grease into this hammer section. It's in the whole top half. Now I have some grease on already, so I'm only using 60. I have noted on the Bosch website for this particular hammer, they no longer give you the type of grease. They normally give you lubrication instructions, tell you how much and what kind of grease to put on, grease or oil or whatever. They don't have that anymore. I'm hoping because they're going to change the grease, because this is a little bit heavy for this hammer. I'd actually much prefer to use the Makita grease in this, but even still I would nearly need 3 of the Makita tubes, because they only come 30 ml to do this, and they cost €8 or €9 a tube, so it would work out quite expensive. This is a lot cheaper to use the Bosch stuff, but the Makita stuff has more oil in it. So it actually coats it a lot better. The reason I don't like the Bosch stuff is because it's too thick and it gets thrown off over time and the gears wear out. So what I've been doing recently, you've probably seen in other videos, is just putting some oil in along with it to thin it out. Now, this isn't going to be able to take much because it's going to fill up, but this just makes it a little bit more like the Makita grease. A little bit more fluid, so it actually gets down onto the gear and lubricates it, stops it from wearing out. This actually has the proper bung in it as well, so this can take oil no problem. I'd be tempted to put all oil into it, but I think it would be a bit too much and it could leak. Or not leak, but at least seep and make a bit of a mess. So I don't want to do that. I want to put some grease on it. Plus the grease is better for the hammer mechanism, allows it to run or last longer in the hammer mode before the seals need to be replaced, but it's not good for the gears. As you can see from brand new machines coming in after a year or two, sometimes they come in with the gears stripped out, and we see it more and more often. So there is a problem with the grease. I'm hoping because Bosch taken off their website saying what grease it is, hopefully they're going to change it, but I've heard nothing from them yet. Now the lead I'm just going to tidy up because it's a little long. I'm going to shorten it just in case it's going to break here anytime soon. This is where it normally wears out. And I'm just going to rewire it on a little bit shorter. The actual ends here a bit shorter so it's not hanging out like this. I might need to change them wee screws too. Yeah, someone's changed this before. Changed it and stripped out the heads. So now the next person can't change the lead. No, that's gone. We got that one. If you can't get these screws out, you're scuppered because you're going to have to replace the whole control module. Change the lead. Not exactly something you want to be doing. There we go. If them heads strip out in you, get rid of them. Replace them with something else. These leads go on here. Make sure they're in place first. And make sure your controller sits in. And then hook your handle underneath here. There's two little tabs you have to hook into. Hook it in and push it in. We should still be able to get to these screws even like this. It's starting to look better now. Now, see if I have two of these. It's always good to keep a wee selection of screws, especially ones like these, wee small ones. These are all off old plugs and sockets. That'll work. And that'll work. Some of these smaller screws, they can be hard to get because they can be the different lengths, different threads, different thicknesses, different heads on them. It's always good to keep a selection of different types, even from old scrap machines, because you never know when they're going to come in wild handy. That'll leave it easier for the next man too, if he ever needs to change the lead. Just hook up these leads again. So she's ready to run. And then the wee blue one here is just for the brush lead. That's just what turns on the wee red light when the brushes are near empty. And changing leads on these, keep the leads nice and short. They don't need to be long. You can all wrapped up around the top, they don't last as long. This needs to have the cable clamp installed to stop the lead from being pulled out. And if you have it too long, you'll not clamp anything. No clamp either, so we'll have to go into the other box of tricks. Let's keep a selection of these two. Now, is that her ready to run? No, it's not going to work. Go again. Is that the grommet at the bottom cover? Hopefully it's just this. Yeah, just the grommet's gone. So that actual rubber ball's worn out of it. Not much point in having a grommet, it's not doing its job. Try again. Be a different story if it was the whole bottom cover we had to replace. Now, is that her ready to go? And will it work? Is she going to start, fart, or pop on me? Because it'll go either way on this one. She definitely looks good, but is it going to run good? There's only one way to find out, and that's just switch her on and see. Clear the path here. Well, we have a light. What's it going to sound like? That actually sounds a lot better than I thought it was going to. Thought it was going to sound a lot more geary than that. And the motor's not sparking. Can't complain with that. That I'm going to say is a success. One Bosch GSH 5 CE, fully serviced, up and running again, running smooth, no more rattling, and hopefully hammering the way she's meant to be. I'll take her over to the transformer and give her a proper wee test out here. Not so bad. Not a thing wrong with that. Just goes to show, even when they're old and worn out and sound terrible, you can actually still get them fixed up again. Even this here, a full service and parts replaced up in the gearbox, get her up and running again. All that work, all that all together is costing around €200. Not a bad price, seeing as to replace this machine, you're looking at it between €700 and €800 for a new modern GSH 5 hammer today. Depending on where you're buying it, that's what you're going to be paying for it. So quarter of the price of a new one, and you're getting a machine that's running just as good. Not a thing wrong with that, and well worth the money as far as I'm concerned. But anyway folks, that's it. That's how you fix up your Bosch hammer. You service it and get it up and running again if you have one of these things and they lay down on you. If you sound like that, if you sound bad up in here, sound very rough, make sure you get it done sooner rather than later, because the longer you leave it, the more damage is going to be caused. Service isn't too bad, but when you've replaced gears and bearings and all up in here, it gets a little bit more expensive. Without all that stuff, just a service in this thing would cost just over 100, the extra bit, so it puts the price up a little bit more. But that's how you do it if you have one of these here, or if you're doing it at work. Well worth fixing up if you have one anyway. Anyway folks, that's her up and running again, ready for another day's work. As always folks, if you're liking the tool repair videos, give us a wee like and a follow down below. And if you want to help out the channel, you can hit that share button, or if you want to, you can become members as well. Anyway folks, thanks for watching. Till next time, chat to you later.